Um, cool. All right, Miguel, thanks for joining. Really excited to talk about the distillery. We've got a lot of folks asking a lot of questions and have had a ton of interest. I think over $2.5 million so far for
Fantastic.
just 1 million of allocation slots. So I think it's going to be very popular. But yeah, it's definitely outside the wheelhouse of a lot of folks. So we have a few questions that I think chatting them through would give them a bit more comfort around writing a chunky check. So do you want to give sort of a brief overview of
of course,
the story and how it's come to be?
So real quick, I'll give you an overview of House of Rare, what we do. We're a tequila investment company. We've been operating for more than 4 years. Before that, I've been in private equity and real estate all my life, and my family has been doing industrial real estate for over 120 years here in Mexico. So we know the process, we know how to do things right regarding the real estate part of the deal. And obviously through private equity and now tequila investments in specific, that's how we landed on this deal. For the past 3 years, we've concentrated on the tequila aging part of the business. So that means we buy Blanco for very premium distilleries, put it to age on now 5 warehouses we have, and then we sell it bulk or bottle it for a profit. Now, through relationships and talking to people about exits, what we're gonna do with this extra añejo tequila we've been aging for time now and everything, our future partners in the distillery, Tequila Partners, presented the opportunity to us. So they're basically a brand development and tequila consulting group based in Guadalajara and Miami. They've been in the business for over 30 years. They have experience running distilleries, actually, and even an M&A. The distillery they worked on got sold to Erdington back in the day. So they kind of already even know that part of how do we prepare a distillery for an exit. So basically, back in December, I get a call. They're like, "Hey, Miguel, you were asking about getting a tequila license, a distillery. Well, it's ready. We have it. It's an extremely rare occurrence. So jump on a plane and come see it." I met Juan Pablo and Vinicio, our day-to-day operators and tequila partners, so our partners in this deal over there. And we did a visit to the distillery. Obviously, this gets us into probably the first question everybody has. And the question I had that day is, why is Rigo, the owner, selling this distillery, right? What if it's such a precious thing, to own a distillery, to have a tequila license? Why is he selling? So just a quick little overview for everyone here. Tequila can only be made in a certain region of Mexico. So that's Jalisco, the whole state, and then little pockets of the states around it. It's really protected. We have a commission that's called the CRT, Comisión Reguladora del Tequila, that oversees all production, harvesting of the agaves, and basically the whole industry. It's a very fine institution, and everybody must follow the rules.
It's like Bordeaux wine, right? Or champagne.
Yeah, like champagne. So there's sparkling wine, that will be mezcal and other agave spirits. And then you have champagne, which is tequila. This really fine institution was founded, by the tequila families 40, 50 years ago, in 1973, to be specific. And it controls, regulates, makes sure anyone in any country in the world cannot call tequila something that's not tequila or not made there. And, well, given this process and how restricted all the rules are, there's only a certain amount of licenses. That number, it moves, but right now we'll say it's 230 licenses. So very few for a huge industry, worldwide industry. So when you get called and say, "Hey, there's a distillery up for grabs," first question, as we all have, is why is he selling? Well, let me tell you a little bit about Rigo. Him and his family have been in the tequila region for generations. They are landowners, they have an hacienda. And then Rigo, who is a doctor by profession, decided to take a passion project. That was to build a distillery at their hacienda. So he took into this venture 5 years ago. It took him 5 years to develop the plan, build the distillery. You start producing tequila, agave spirit, and then you invite the CRT and you tell them basically, "Hey, I think I'm producing tequila. What do you think?" And then the commission will do a series of tests, check the machinery, check your process, and then give you the seal of approval. This is something anyone can make, but as you can see, you need to build the whole thing. You need to start producing. A lot of money is spent, a lot of time just to get the license, right? So it's a very high barrier of entry. And basically, when he got the license, he realized it's not easy to run a distillery. It takes time, it takes dedication. And not only that, it's one thing is running it, and the other thing is on the other end, start getting clients, right? And that's something he found it a little bit tough working as a doctor also at the same time. So he just approached the people he had consulted with, Tequila Partners. And he was like, you know what, JP, it's ready, man. I know you'll take good care of it. I want to sell it to you. And he offered it around a little bit, but he was convinced he wanted someone he knew and trusted to run his little baby, basically. He still has his hacienda right next to us. He's going to stay there. He's going to be in contact. He loves, I mean, we were on Friday with him last week, and he's just passionate about it. He's happy to show us around. He wants to keep involved. So that gave peace to my heart, knowing it was legitimate, the sale, and that he's also not going to take the money and run. He's going to stay. He's going to help us. He's going to make sure everything's running the way it should. So, yeah.
Okay, great. So, I mean, did he shop it around at all, or did he just go to JP and say, hey, take it? Because it feels like there'd be a bidding war sort of thing for a nom.
Yeah, there was. I mean, and this is something you'll be able to chat when you come to Mexico, because he laughs a little bit. He was like, man, I was getting, as soon as I just like told one of my family members, I just started getting calls, people going around. It's quick deals, right? So people even offered him a mansion in Guadalajara. He was like, I'll exchange it for you. It's worth double what you're asking, you know, but it's like, they were coming in with ATVs. He loves going around in racer and ATVs through the volcano of Tequila. They were coming in with the trailers and just like, hey, here's a little gift for you. But then he thought, right, like, okay, is this the people I want to my neighbors? He went, so an agro business offered him some money, but then they were like, oh yeah, we're gonna build a building here. There's gonna be 20 people living here. He was like, you know what? I'm gonna hear offers and then choose. And he chose us basically. It was a 10-day process, right? From hearing offers, meeting us in person. But yeah, he did shop around a little bit, and that's what convinced him of, okay, I need to sell someone I know and trust.
Yeah.
And that will be my neighbor for the coming years.
But does him staying on site limit your ability to expand at all? Like if you wanted to add, guest accommodation on site for like tequila tourists, are you?
Well, that's a cool thing. We do have enough land right now to grow significantly. So we get 3.7 acres, which is 1.65 hectares. The actual building of the distillery, it doesn't occupy that much. It must be, I don't know, half an acre. The rest is land that has zoning to grow. We can put warehouse, we can put accommodation there. We can do even bigger. The whole facility is built in an industrial design way where we can add ovens real easy. It has space for 4 more ovens, bigger steels. We can put there's a patio in the back where we can put more like finished product storage. So it as a good doctor, he's very looking into detail. And when he was working with the engineers, he was like, let's think about expansion and let's also make it super clean and super well designed. So it's like, for example, after all the you have cantilevered floors, which is a rare occurrence. That helps out a lot with the cleaning process and just general, if there's any leaks, if there's anything, you can collect the leaks. Just little details he did with the industrial design that really help us. Oh, no, it's like a diamond in a little, how do you call it? A pre-polished diamond that we can just take now and expand, and it's ready to be grown and utilized as we wish. So start small, but with the quick capacity to grow.
We had a few questions about that, about the CapEx for growth. Yeah. It seems quite small, I think, relative to what people expected. Do you want to walk through that quickly and just explain the plan, the process, and how the funds will be allocated?
Yeah, so we have a very solid business plan. So we're just following the trends of the market right now. So there's two really big trends in spirits in general, but also in tequila, right? And that's one, RTDs, and even low alcohol RTDs. So people are just wanting, they're replacing beer with ready to drink canned beverages. Tequila ones, and the ones that include good tequila are considered, better, and for you, like it's not like the old-fashioned RTDs, which is like a mysterious liquid, a mysterious spirit, tastes like artificial. Now the trend is, let's move to something more, flavorful, that I know where it's coming from, made from agave, made from coconut, made from pineapple. Like I want to know the ingredients, So that trend is really, really strong. That's growing double digits in the US, and it's starting to explode in the world. So how do we attack the RTD part? One, we have a canning facility partner in Philadelphia that's going to take a little bit of our bulk. Well, not a little bit, a significant amount of our bulk, and it's going to go into different brands they have contracted for their distillery. And then recently also, and this is finalizing negotiation, but it will be done by this week, just a big bulk spirits distributor in the US. They want in on the deal. They're going to invest, and they're going to take a lot of these like bulk tequila. So let me go back a step. So we're going to do bulk tequila for RTDs and ready to drink mixed beverage. And then we're going to go exactly to the other side of the spectrum with the super premium, traditionally made tequila brands. And so this part is also what's growing almost triple digits in the US and the world. So tequila in general, the industrial stuff, your factory-made tequilas, the celebrity brands, that's going down. That stopped growing so much. It was exploding. Now it's plateauing. Traditionally made tequilas, especially distilleries with a good reputation, with open doors policies, come visit us, see where the magic's done. That's growing 97%. That grew 97% last year. And we see that trend keep growing. As the others go down, you got to fill the channels with something of more quality, a bit more expensive, but people are willing to pay for that. So we're going to take on that trend. Our plan is to contract 10 to 12 brands that we love, and it's going to be a strict process where we talk to the owners, see if they align with our vision, the channels they want to fill. A lot of talk about Southeast Asia, India, China, that's opening up also. So we just want to align with the brands. It's a talk we'll have as a board and as day-to-day operators. Engage with those brands, get very nice contracts with them, partner up, even get some equity on some of that brands. And we'll get into that topic in a second. And then on the other end, we're just sending like bulk tequila, quality bulk tequila to the US to either be canned or utilized in wholesale things, And the cool thing is bulk doesn't really ruin your reputation as an ultra premium, because that's a separate business. You can even be a broker, right? And we will be brokers at the beginning. So we just find quality bulk, transfer it to our license, and then sell it. And then on the other end, we have the super premium brands, which are putting the reputation of the distillery high up. So that's basically the business plan. And it's, we're just grabbing the two pockets of value we see and that's why the growth, we say it's 40%. It's going to be, we have the capacity, the industrial capacity to grow that. And if not, we have the ability to broker while we grow. And then it's growing 95% every year. So 40%, we know it's aggressive, but it's something we're going to base all our business to reach those numbers. And we start small, right? Because it's a small distillery. And then as we grow, it allows for a higher growth than you will normally see in more industrial, more like bigger facilities.
Yeah, it's starting from a low base, so aggressive growth isn't necessarily out of the question, I guess. You mentioned sort of like 8 or 9 brands. Have you already got those identified, or are you already in talks with them?
Yeah, and I was just chatting with Simon because we were doing some numbers before the call. On the model we're going to have 110,000 liters the first year. Last week, people started hearing we're going to buy the distillery, and we started getting some calls on soft let's call it soft commits, brands that are interested and giving us their like ballpark volume. I'm like, give me a ballpark volume. We're just building a list. I want you to be in the list. We have 350,000 liters already there, you know? So even if we choose or finalize deals with 1/3 of the brands, just like skimming the top, have called us, we already have the capacity for first year, right? And these are brands. Let me tell you a little bit about them. I don't want to get into names. We will do that down the line. But right now, because we're negotiating and stuff, but basically a UK brand that sells in 14 countries in Europe. They want to do their very special editions with us, like the super quality stuff. They want to do it with us. I'm talking $500 bottles of tequila with really crazy bottles. Brand new tequila brand for a London and Dubai restaurant chain, Mexican. They're like going crazy. They want their own brand. We've been talking about that. A brand that's already on the shelves in the US that the owner wants to sell for some unfortunate reasons, but we want to see how we can partner up with him and take it, continue doing what he's doing great. Two mezcaleros, two people that already have successful mezcal brands. They want to come into the tequila world, and they want to help us develop the ancestral part of the how to do tequila using the mezcal parts. That's huge right now. So we already have two people talking about that, bringing in some like ancestral tools to, for the harvest and stuff. And then three others, which we're also contemplating. So we have a very nice list of brands that will go through the whole process, and we'll just be very smart on who we choose. And so it won't be difficult to fill the premium part of the spectrum with the brands, and then the bulk part just with the co-packing in Philadelphia and the bulk distributor will have enough to fill the lines and even start brokering some liquid.
Okay, so what's the volume split of those two business lines, the brand partnerships and the bulk, and how do the margins differ? And are they going to change over time?
Yeah, so that's a great question. So we're just being practical with the pro forma, right? I think we start 50-50, and then we're going to see how it shifts. Because obviously bulk is less price, less margins, but also a lot more volume, right? Like you can go into the million of liters. If you broker and producing house, you can go to millions of liters a year easily. It just takes, one restaurant chain, one cruise ship line to engage with you, and then you're done with the bulk part. Like you're going to be selling as much as you can with low margins and the nuances it has, but we have the team in place that can make it happen. We're also talking to a sustainable packing developer. It's basically kegs, recycling kegs that you can put tequila in, basically put into a margarita machine, and but it plays into the whole like eco-friendly stuff, right? Like they use them, bring them back to the factory, we refill them, and so yeah, it's a whole world of cool stuff we can do on the bulk. And then premium, obviously we have more margin. The brands, like I said, will try to get some equity on their like cap table as a distillery. So it's not only the margins we get with them. At the end, it's more a partnership it's like a little joint venture with the brands. It's like, we want you to be successful. We believe you're going to be successful. That's why we're going to do your liquid. That's why we're going to bottle your bottles. And then so higher margins, less volume, but then also exit opportunities. If any of those brands sells to a big guy, we have some equity, right? And I'm calling them mini exits, because we have the overall like big exit that will happen eventually, or we can decide to keep cash flowing in perpetuity. But then maybe we're surprised. Hey, these guys, they got an offer from one of the big conglomerates. They're gonna sell, and it gives us X amount of millions. So these little exits are a little plus that maybe you cannot model that easily into the pro forma, but that they're there, and we're very excited about.
Yeah, that makes sense. It's sort of cherry on top stuff, right? Like if it happens, great. If it doesn't, it's not part of the model anyway.
Mm-hmm.
Speaking of exits, a lot of folks have asked what the exit plan is, like what kind of a multiple you might expect given the sort of bifurcation of the business model between the bulk distillation and the brand stuff. Like, what's the plan there, and sort of how do you justify what I think some folks have said are quite aggressive exit multiples?
Yeah. So, I mean, it's always difficult to nail a number for this, right? But I'll give you the justification of what we're thinking. It ties up with what we just talked about, right? Like we have the bulk business that's very valuable. We see a lot of value there. If you become a big player or at least have a very large client in that sense, that's excess in the multiple, right? Like it grows your valuation because it's a license that's selling bulk to a big player. And then on the other end, if you have valuable brands, which you participate in, maybe that also pumps the excess up. From some charts from Statista and things we've seen on the lower end, and maybe it's more private deals, 15 to 16x is normal, especially because we're starting small, right? Like going back to the leaders, now it's on the price. We're coming in a very nice price. So it's easier to jump and expatiate those excess. So, I mean, a working distillery with brands, with a bulk business, that's selling, I mean, easily for 150 million. Like easy. That's like a small number. If they have, and this is something we'll develop to like a big in-house brand, maybe there's some goodwill in there. You start looking at the 300 million, and it's hard to show this because there's not these kind of deals. When someone comes and buys a distillery for 200 mil, that's, they don't really publicize it, or it's not like a public deal. But that's kind of what we've seen in the industry, like between 100 and 300 million, that's where the range we can get to if everything goes as planned, if we expand as we are, if we get the clients. And that's what we're going to be working to, right? There's going to be some, unforeseen things on the road, but I think we have enough team and enough, also, the people that are going to come in. I'm sure we're going to get some smart money out of there, relationships. So we're just building the whole thing. The whole base is going to be built smartly, so we can take it to those 200 to 300 million enterprise value numbers. And if not, there's always the cash flow part of it, right? It's gonna be there's gonna be nice cash flows. Yeah, I mean, so that's something to look for also, apart from the exits. And who buys this kind of stuff? I mean, the way I see it, I'll give you an example that's maybe people can relate with. Craft beer 10 years ago, it started exploding. Everybody was going crazy about it. That's kind of like what's happening with craft tequila, basically. And then the big conglomerates came, and any craft brewery that had some brands, they were paying way more multiple than their usual. So that's kind of like where the trend we see and why we're going into this specific business model. So yeah, I mean, we're in the deal. We have skin in the game. We love what we're doing. So we're just going to make sure we get the best exit out of this for everyone.
So just thinking about how a sort of like, for example, Cuervo might value something like this. So they put one value on the brands, which would be some multiple. They put another probably like smaller multiple on the bulk sales because they can already do that themselves, right? And then there'd be whatever the NPV is of any equity you've got on the cap table of these brands would be sort of added onto that. I guess the nom itself wouldn't hold value to them because they've already got a certification, unless I'm mistaken.
No, yeah, I think the nom has a lot of value too. And we're going to start seeing more value as we go because it's the high entry of barrier, that's not going to change. And then, yeah, as the craft traditional stuff keeps growing and growing, there's going to be the factories. I mean, distilleries are getting saturated, especially on the smaller and micro sense of like, man, you can take 10, 12 brands, maybe 15, And once you fill up, the brands need to go looking somewhere else. And they have two alternatives: really convince a distillery our size to take them, or just go with a traditional factory, not so like super manufacturing places. So I see a lot of value on the NOM also as an asset.
Even if the acquirer already had their own NOM, or would they?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So imagine it's like, like going back to the beer model. They have their big they don't have a license, but they have their big, factories that are doing millions and millions of bottles. They still buy the brewery that has, smaller, and it's also a way to kind of clean your name, So if you have the big factory, you're producing the typical, orange label tequila that everybody knows, it's in every bar in the world, and you want to get into the craft, you want to have on your portfolio some brands that are craft, and getting a NOM that has those brands, it's a clean number, right? It's like, our NOM is 1648, right? So, I'll buy 1648, maybe discreetly, so people don't relate it to the big factory. And we just have our portfolio of, craft traditional brands under a NOM, but we control it in reality. So it's part of the conglomerate, but the NOM is clean. So I do, yeah, of course. And actually, I see them getting 5, 6, trying to control the market, and that even reduces the quantity of NOMs that are out there owned independently.
So in theory, like a conglomerate or 3 or 4 conglomerates could kind of do like a roll up the way that like media in the US has been rolled up. They could go hoover up as many of these 230 NOMs as they could, leaving only maybe dozens of independent NOMs left. Is that happening?
I see that happening. I see that that's where in the next 3 to 5 years, that's going to start happening. It's happening already. Like I said, discreetly, there's little brands that you'll see on Old Town Tequila or Specs, or that you're like, oh, this is traditional. They keep their NOM, right? But I know they 30% or 40% of that distillery is owned by the big guys, already. So we're starting to see it. There's obviously resistance from some of them. Some of them just like, all right, let's sell. But it's gradual, it's happening, and I think it's gonna really explode in 3 to 5 years, and that's where we're gonna be ready to, contemplate what we do.
Yeah, that makes sense. Cool, thank you. So let's wrap up before people get bored of listening to this chat.
Yeah.
So we're looking to close this end of March, right? That's when.
Yes. So we have a mandate. So right now we are just doing all the notarial stuff we need to do with the Mexican entity. So just for clarity for everyone, we just incorporated a fresh corp in Delaware. That's what's gonna take the safes and the investments. That's just a holding investment vehicle. That's where you guys come in as investors. Well, through Altea. We have a very nice clean cap table there, and that wholly owns the Mexican operating company, which is called Herencia Agaves. So we're just closing all the paperwork with that, making very deep paperwork. We have engaged with 2 lawyer firms. We have the notary involved. We're taking the piece of land, including it into the SA. So, once the American entity takes over the operating company, the land, the NOM, and the actual warehouse and everything will be included in a single company, and that's what does the day-to-day operation. So we're just cleaning that up. Everything will be ready by the 15th of March, and then we have the mandate to pay and get the keys on the 31st of March. We don't expect any delays, but you never know. But everything's looking nice. We're having daily conversations with the sellers and their team. So yeah, ideally, if you're interested, feel free to make more questions. We'll also have a video. I think we already uploaded it with a tour of the facilities. I was there last week with the owner and some investors. And yeah, just feel free to ask anything, but we need to move relatively quick. As we said at the beginning of this call, it's a very rare occurrence, happens once in a lifetime. We're very lucky, and it's a really cool asset to own also. So
yeah, it sure is. Okay, thanks, Miguel. Appreciate it. Yeah, I'll post this in the Altea space, and everyone will have an opportunity to look at it. Thanks a lot.
Thank you. Thanks, Wyatt.
Okay.